at Motor Mile Speedway for us to have our season finale of the 2022 season powered by Pace-O-Matic. Looks like our field of cars are lined up on the main straightaway, and we are inching closer to the start of our race here tonight. Our final one of the season with so much on the line. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I would like to throw it down trackside to Robert Smith, who is with one of our dignitaries from our presenting sponsor at Pace-O-Matic, to deliver the most famous words in motorsports.
Yes, we're down here with Justin Pence from Pace-O-Matic, and he's Pace-O-Matic. He's going to give the command to these guys to fire up these hot rods and get on the road.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Go racing.
And with that, the field is now rolling. Behind the AutosByNelson.com pace truck for the final time in 2022. Earlier today in Pace-O-Matic pole qualifying, we saw Brandon Ward grab his second pole of the season. By virtue of the redraw, though, it is Burt Myers and Brian Lofton who are going to make up the front row. Irony there is that's how they came to the checkered flag 1 week ago. It was Lofton, though, who's credited with the victory. We'll touch on that once we get our race underway. Jason Myers and Jonathan Brown, row 2. And then our championship contenders, Brandon Ward, the quick time setter, and young gun Caleb Hetty for Tommy Baldwin Racing will be starting on the outside of row number 3. Bobby Labonte, one of our Smart 3 as well, inside of row number 4, alongside hometown hero Dennis Holdren in the 07, who will roll off in 8th. Randy Butner making his return to Smart Modified competition in the 6th will start 9th. On the outside, also making a return to Smart Modified competition, Chris Fleming rounds out your top 10. And as we continue our parade and pace laps, I want to welcome in here Scott Stevens, who is the traditional announcer here at Motor Mile. And Scott, I know this wasn't a race that was on the original docket for the track or for Smart being on this date here on October 22nd, but what great weather we've had. And I think we're about to have some pretty good racing as well.
Well, you know, if there's anything good about having a hurricane, and for us it was just the rain as a result of the hurricane, it was that this date got pushed to the 22nd. You guys already had a race on the 8th. You already had a race on the 15th. And then you came in here on the 22nd, and now on our championship night for our super streets and our sportsmen, it's championship night for the Smart Modified. So we feel fortunate that things fell the way they did. And like you said, Mother Nature definitely cooperating with a beautiful fall day here in the New River Valley.
Incredible weather that we have here tonight, and I think things are about to heat up a little bit here trackside once we unleash these cars for the final race of the season, the Radford race. If you weren't fortunate enough to be with us here at the racetrack, there was an incredible tribute paid to a racer of this area who has really impacted short track racing in several ways in Paul Radford, nicknamed the Ferrum Flash, and his car and the driver himself were here and presented with the Eternal Flame. And perhaps, Scott, it is possible, with young Caleb Hetty being atop the championship standings, and the way the math falls, we're a lap away from the green flag, we could see the passing of the torch, if you will, as far as a young modified star being born tonight. And what a better place to do it than here at Motor Mile.
Boy, I tell you what, a lot of excitement with these cars. The qualifying lap did not quite break the record from last year. Like a quarter second off was the difference. But man, we can see how fast these cars are. Low to the ground, big tires, and they are super fast here tonight.
For the final time in 2022, the Smart Modified Tour, powered by Pace-O-Matic, is about to light the fuse. Burt Myers and Brian Lofton bring us down for the start. Side by side, about 3 rows deep, as the battle for the lead continues in turns 3 and 4. Who's going to lead lap 1 as Myers powers his way past Lofton, but only by half a car length as they complete lap 1. Myers cements the lead up front. Lofton slots in the second. Jason Myers trying to cut a trail to the front and the bottom in car 4 alongside of Jonathan Brown for third. Brown gets the launch on the top side in the SS Racing number 22, trying to make that high line work. Remember, last week, he only ran a handful of laps at Tri-County before they blew a big hole in the motor. Somehow saved the race car, and he's looking for redemption tonight. He's up to third. Brown trying to work that top side of the racetrack off turn 2, but a big run coming there from Brian Lofton, who rides at second spot. Reminder, Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break coming at lap 30. So these drivers racing hard for the $300 up for grabs, as well as championship points, as Lofton has a look inside. Burt Myers and Brian Lofton battling for the race lead as they did at Tri-County a week ago. And as Lofton gets a good drive off the corner, if you weren't with us last week at Tri-County, Burt Myers flat out dominated. However, in post-race technical inspection, they found a data acquisition device on the car. Took the win away, and then a further penalty was announced early in the week. Myers and his team have appealed that penalty. It gave the race victory to Brian Lofton, and currently that ruling will be going towards an appeals panel in the coming days. So that's a story we will keep our eyes on. But hats off to Burt Myers and company for coming out here to compete tonight. And if you can't tell, he is certainly motivated, trying to fend off the two-time winner Lofton just behind us. We got a problem. The championship point leader's off the pace. Caleb Hetty has slowed on the front straightaway with a mechanical problem. We saw sparks coming out from underneath the front of that car. And the question now becomes, can he make it back to the pit area? 9 laps on the board. This was not the way that the Shelbyville, Kentucky native wanted to cement the title. Hetty has made it back to pit road, but with just 9 laps complete, he is off the pace and evidently out of this race. We'll follow up on that story coming into the night. Hetty had a 37-point advantage as we got a caution. Caution on the racetrack. And it may have something to do with Caleb Hetty's car. Yellow flag coming out after something came undone underneath the front end of Caleb Hetty's race car. The youngster who won the first time out at Caraway Speedway earlier on in 2022, yet has remained incredibly consistent throughout the season. During our qualifying coverage, we were able to touch on some of the facets of the Smart Modified point standings, or as a matter of fact, I should say the point system. Similar to what we see in NASCAR. If a driver finishes in the top 5 in a particular race, any Smart Modified points paying event, they earn what we call championship points. If you make it into the top 3 in the championship standings, as Caleb Hetty, Bobby Labonte, and Brandon Ward did following Tri-County last week, the points that they accumulated throughout the first 10 events of the season carry over to the re-racking of the top 3 when we set the 3 drivers who will battle it out for the championship. And by virtue of a lot of consistency, Caleb Hetty, who may be out of this race, was able to build up a 37-point advantage over the next highest driver to make the Smart 3 in Bobby Labonte. You see the work going on there on the right front and make that right side of Caleb Hetty's car, and that team is thrashing. But fortunately, the good news for Hetty is the fact that we had 19 cars entered in today's race. We had 2 of which elected to not make the trip to Motor Mile, if you will. One of which the Hillbilly Racing Organization, which has turned their attention to the North-South Shootout that'll be taking place in a few weeks' time. And also the 0-2 car, the second Randy Renfro and Joey Coulter Motorsports machine that has turned its attention to the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour event that will be on Thursday. So we're down to 17 cars. Well, then you enter in the fact that the number 3 of Craig Young, who unloaded off the trailer, decided not to make it out for qualifying. Not sure what happened to Craig's machine, but nevertheless, it was an additional spot that vacated at the tail end of the pack, and we nearly had one more. Gary Young Jr., who broke a drive shaft in qualifying. Ironically enough, it was the Tommy Baldwin team that lent him what was needed to get his car repaired, race ready, and Gary made the call to start this race. So that's one more spot that would have been up for grabs for Hetty should this problem had happened without the 45 in the field. But nevertheless, it looks as though, based on our calculations, that even if Bobby Labonte was to be able to get up there, lead the most laps, and gain those 5 bonus points, win the stage, which is another 3 bonus points, on top of winning the race, as well as getting the 10-point bonus, it may not be surmountable in terms of being able to pass Caleb Hetty for the championship. Now, I'll remind everybody, as the Citrus Safe Choose Cone is out for the first time tonight, math is not my best subject. We have our aces, such as Justin Mincy, who handles a lot of the pre- and post-race write-ups and does a lot of the points-paying calculations and historical data collection for the Smart Modified Tour. He will be double-checking his arithmetic before we call it a day here at Motor Mile. So the caution comes out for points leader Caleb Hetty with a mechanical problem. 11 laps in the books. Burt Myers and Brian Lofton on the front row. Into the Pace-O-Matic restart zone they come. 19 laps away from the stage break. Another great launch by Burt Myers on the bottom lane, moving up into the race lead. Same song, second verse for that second row. Jonathan Brown gets by Brandon Ward for third. Bobby Labonte trying to hang on the right rear, has to pedal it on the main straightaway as Ward tried to slide up and cover the spot in fourth in car 2. Labonte got a good launch there at the end of the back straightaway in that 25 car. Now Hook in the bottom with the left side tires as they come off of turn 4 and down the front stretch. Brian Lofton with a good drive out of turn 2. Hunt's the lead in 3, and Burt Myers is going to leave the door open just enough for Lofton to slide down low. Myers on the top side, able to get a good launch off of turn number 4, side by side for the lead on the backstretch. Lofton inside, almost up into the side nerf bar of the ace as they come out of 4. And Myers will fend off the fight for the moment. We talked about the lead into Burt Myers' story in 2022. Really impressive in the second half of the season for Lofton and company. One of his good luck charms, not here at the racetrack tonight. We talked at great length about his young son Carson, who at just 14 years of age scored a top 10 finish in his tour-type modified debut. When his team won at Carteret, Carson was spotting for Father Brian. Well, Carson's got some racing duties of his own. He's trying to wrap up the 602 Crate Modified Championship at Caraway. And Lofton's having to fly solo in terms of carrying the family banner for this race team right now. And he's doing a good job of it, running second. Jonathan Brown starting to win the frame here in the battle for the lead as we're 10 laps shy from the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break. Right now, the championship contenders of Brandon Ward and Bobby Labonte run 4th and 5th, while Caleb Hetty's night very well may be over right now. So far, Burt Myers has been able to hold the field at bay despite getting up off the bottom groove of this racetrack. And it was not an opportunity for Ryan Lofton to get up to and by as Jonathan Brown in the SS Racing number 22, another feature winner on the 2022 campaign. It was Jonathan Brown who got this team, SS Racing, for Senator Bill Stanley and Hermie Sadler to victory lane at Franklin County. And so far, it's been a pretty consistent year besides some of the bad luck that has jumped up and bit this team, like what happened to them 1 week ago Brown said he is definitely trying to end their season on a high note, and he is all over the back Nerf bar of Brian Lofton for second. First time tonight, we're going to be seeing some lap traffic in the field as Brian Weber goes way up the racetrack off turn 4. Now he'll pull to the bottom of the racetrack in turn 1 and allow Burt Myers and company a clear path through on the outside. And that's going to accordion the top 5 back together again as we're 4 laps shy of the stage break. Brown with a good run off turn 2, but Lofton pulls him down the straightaway. Lofton starting to turn up the heat here. Again, 3 points on the line and $300 for the winner of the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break. 200 to second, 100 to third. While the rest of the field will continue to try to figure out how this race is going to unfold with a choose tire in the pit area. Strategy was a big talking point at Tri-County for the Cardinal 99 1 week ago. And the general consensus amongst the pit area is tonight will be the same. Here comes the top 5 under a blanket with 1 lap to go on the stage. Labonte had a look on Brandon Ward for 4th as Burt Myers leads the Congo line down the backstretch. Field's going to be coming off of turn number 4. The final Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break of the season goes to Burt Myers ahead of Brian Lofton and Jonathan Brown, your top 3. So Burt Myers, who certainly in his mind, along with his race fans and the entire team and organization, feels like they have a lot to prove here tonight as far as the momentum and performance of that car and that organization has gone out and led every single lap of the opening 30 go-arounds here, part of the Radford race. Honoring Paul Radford, the Ferrum Flash, one of the most successful short track racers of this region and of our time, who is here on the track property grounds watching this race unfold along with all of us here at Motor Mile and all of you watching along on Flow Racing. So this caution, the second of the race, first one came out when Caleb Hetty's car came to a stop on lap 10. And this, the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break, is going to open the pit lane. We were here last year. We had 28 cars come to the green flag in this race. This year, only the front stretch pits are going to be utilized, and they're going to be utilized right now. 2 of our Smart 3 in Bobby Labonte and Brandon Ward have elected to come down for service, and thus far it looks to be adjustments on these cars or maybe some swapping on the left side tires. Chris Fleming, in his first Smart start of the season, also has come down. Gary Young Jr. is in the pits as Labonte is already down and away. Daniel Yates, Randy Butner, and Brian Weber, the cars that have elected to take advantage of the caution at the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break to come to the attention of their pit crews for service, as Ward is now down and away. It's going to jumble up the running order here as Burt Myers, Brian Lofton, Jonathan Brown remain your top 3. Then Jason Myers and Dennis Holdren up into the top 5. Really good story here for Dennis Holdren and company. When I first began announcing these races for the Smart Modified Tour, my first trip to Franklin County, a racetrack that is a staple in terms of Virginia short track racing and its roots, I was greeted by a young race fan, Jacob Jarrell, who each and every time he cannot be at the racetrack, he is watching live along on Flow Racing like many of you. Well, he also tries to frequent the Mark Dowdy race shop, which oftentimes that team will field 2 cars tonight, just 1 for what is the home venue for Roanoke, Virginia's Dennis Holdren. Well, they offered up an opportunity for Jacob to strap on the helmet and be a part of the pit crew here tonight. So eventually when we see that 07 car come down onto the pit lane, it will be Jacob Jarrell holding the pit sign and guiding him into his stopping point. What a great story for that team to be able to grab someone literally out of the grandstands and into action as Holdren takes the CitraSafe Choose Cone. We want to wish Jacob the best of luck tonight. He is certainly a die-hard supporter of not only the Smart Modified Tour, but all of motorsports, and we appreciate him investing his time, effort, and energy in this event with us here tonight. So by virtue of the CitraSafe Choose Cone, Jonathan Brown from third to first, outside front row now, with Brian Lofton electing to start behind Burt Myers, with Jason Myers moving up in a fourth spot in car 4. Holdren and Finocchiario make up your top 6. Remember, the top 8 cars did not stop as we get back underway. 69 laps to go. Finocchiario did not get going middle of the pack. We almost had a big stack up there on the main straightaway, but everybody's able to drive away. Wheel to wheel for the race lead. Jonathan Brown trying to make the top side work off turn 4 on Burt Myers. And Brown's going to be able to take the lead away out of turn number 2. Burt Myers back to second. Jason Myers has worked himself up into third spot by virtue of choosing the outside lane on the choose cone. Holdren, Finocchiario, your top 6. Bobby Labonte, the highest running car that has stopped thus far, running in 7th spot. And then a 2-car buffer of Jimmy Wallace and Michael Rich until you get to Brandon Ward, who also came down the same time that Labonte did, neither of which bolted on a new Hoosier tire. And while Jonathan Brown starts to try to drive away and break free at the front of the pack, Burt Myers is about 3 car lengths off. Jason Myers doing a good job defending that third spot, running way up the racetrack there in that 4 car, opening the door for Lofton to think about ducking down to the bottom. But Jason Myers able to get a really good launch off the corner using that high lane. You see him there kind of pull himself back into formation ahead of Lofton. But things really starting to stack up here in this battle for third on back. Jason Myers holds the spot. Brian Lofton wants the spot. Then you've got Holdren in the 07, Finocchiario in the 8, and Bobby Labonte in the 25. Finocchiario now inside of Holdren. Labonte's going to follow through. That's going to move Labonte up to 6 as Finocchiario overcooks turn 1, opens the door slightly, but Labonte can't get alongside. Not missing anything up front as this race for third continues to be the best battle we've got on the racetrack, with Jonathan Brown ahead of Burt Myers, and this fight between Brian Lofton and Jason Myers off 2. Well, you can see Lofton visibly try to outbrake Jason Myers off into the corner, and he slides up in front of car 4 to take third. Finocchiario making yet another smart start of the season, also gets by Myers to move in a 4th spot, and Bobby Labonte is back up into the top 5. When you look at the box score in terms of Bobby Labonte's season, you see he comes into the night second in championship points, trying to seal that deal with an outside shot at the title, even though he did not pick up any precious stage points, and he has yet to lead a lap tonight. However, for Labonte, his season on a grand scale has been really impressive. Coming into tonight's race, he's finished in the top 10 in 8 out of all 10 races. The 2 that he didn't, Caraway, where that car ran out of fuel on the front row for a restart, and of course Carteret, where the seatbelts came undone, and he came up 1 spot shy of a top 10 in what was a fantastic charge. He's now working on Finocchiario, entering turn number 3 for what would be 4th position on the racetrack. A good gap behind that of Brian Lofton, with the lap car of Brian Weber up ahead. Oh, Labonte, you saw a little bit of sparks there going into turn 1 as that fight continues side by side into turn 3. Lap car of Weber up ahead. This is going to get dodgy. Labonte hooks the bottom. Weber gets out of the way just in time, but Labonte's got to fall back in line. Meanwhile, back up at the front of the pack, Burt Myers has caught back up to Jonathan Brown for the race lead. You see Jonathan Brown running a bit of a higher line there as he approaches the center of turns 1 and 2 and does the same here in 3 and 4, while Burt takes a lower lane, getting some clean air on that left front tire and pulls to about a car length. These drivers are going to be vying for the Bankers Life Halfway Award that'll be coming up here at lap 50. So Jonathan Brown, who said that even though they did not think they had a piece that would qualify all that well, he was pretty confident that they had themselves a car that would be solid in race conditions, and he is proving it so far here, just shy of the halfway point. Burt Myers way up the hill that time out of turn 4. Lost a lot of ground to Jonathan Brown. Myers now has fallen off by about 7 car lengths off the back dirt bar of Jonathan Brown. Going to be coming up to the Bankers Life Halfway Award next time through, and Jonathan Brown is looking to set sail. Last year, he drove for a different car owner, Buddy Ellis, the car owner's champion for 2021. Came home with a top 10 finish as he picks up the Bankers Life Halfway money. In the last race out for Jonathan Brown, after the motor issue, had to settle for a 16th place finish at Tri-County. Comes into the night 7th in championship points, trying to close out the season on a high. Burt is trying everything possible to get back up to Jonathan Brown for the top spot. As they come up on the back of Brian Weber on the main straightaway, for those of you just joining us, the championship point leader, Caleb Hetty, with just under 10 laps complete, had a mechanical problem. He is out of the race, but by our mathematics, may very much still be able to sew up the Smart Modified Championship powered by Pace-O-Matic. The drivers right now racing for their last chance to grab a Smarty trophy. And the battle is getting hot and heavy between Myers and Brown as we got a car slow on the front straightaway. It's Dennis Holdren. Holdren off the pace on the backstretch. Race stays green for now as the leaders overtake the 07 car going into 3. Leader's going to be coming up on the back of Chris Fleming, the showstopper, who had a tremendous season at Bowman Gray Stadium. 3 wins on the season, 3rd in championship points. And now has got this car prepared and out here for what is his first smart start of the season. And he yields to the race leaders as that car has gotten incredibly free as the run has gone on. Hard to take our eyes off this battle for the lead. Not missing anything behind the front runners. Brian Lofton runs in 3rd. Bobby Labonte 4th. Vinichario and Brandon Ward having a tussle of it in turn 3 for 5th spot. Move Brandon Ward back up into the top 5. But watching these 2 drivers, Jonathan Brown and Burt Myers, try so many different techniques in terms of getting in and out of the corners on each end of the racetrack has certainly piqued my interest. Right now they're running in lockstep formation. Myers sends it off into turn number 3. Hooks the bottom of the racetrack. As the laps continue to click off here at Motor Mile for the Radford race, our final race of the 2022 season, so many drivers carrying different agendas into how the rest of this race is going to unfold. Keep in mind, if we were to see a caution flag, pretty much the whole field still has a fresh Hoosier tire at their disposal. Remember last week at Tri-County, it did not come into play, and we might be entering that danger zone where even if we do see the yellow, there may be some drivers who try to stretch it. It's going to depend on how far into this green flag run we get. As right now, Jonathan Brown has been able to open up the gap over Burt Myers. As we got a crash on the back straightaway, Michael Rich has gone around off of turn number 2. And that is going to set the stage here for the pit stop that could possibly change everything. Michael Rich, who at the time was running well in the top 10, at last glance saw him battling with Chris Vinichario for what was a race for 7th spot. Rich now trying to look for an opportunity to get that car righted, pulled right out in front of Jimmy Wallace as they came out of turn 2. And Rich is now going to join the pack, and I think we're about to see the pit crews of these teams earn their money. For those of you just joining us, again, Caleb Hetty, the points leader, out of this race early on. It looks as though the points buffer is going to be enough to give him the Smart Modified title. We also saw Dennis Holdren come to the pit area under green, the team looking at the right front of that car. And here come the pit stops. Pretty much everybody except for Burt Myers is coming down for fresh Hoosier rubber. Jonathan Brown, the first to hit his pit stall. They're bolting on a new right rear, as is Bobby Labonte, as is Chris Finocchiario, as is just about every car in the pits right now, including that of Brian Lofton and Brandon Ward. Jonathan Brown down and away. What a great stop for Brandon Ward's team, able to put him out in front of Jonathan Brown, who came down the pit lane first. Keep in mind, these pit stops are live action stops, so you can gain positions on the pit lane unless deemed otherwise. And Burt Myers is now going to come to the attention of his pit crew. So Burt waiting a lap there, and it looks as though they're going to swap the left side tires first on the one car. Michael Rich also on the pit lane after his spin on the back straightaway. As things stand, it looks as though Randy Butner is the only car that has not come down for service. He, in fact, may be one of the vehicles that is awaiting the free pass. Timing and scoring at the time of the caution did show Butner one lap down, so we'll check on that with the officials. Interesting story, though, about that number 6 car. We've seen it many a times with Greg Butcher at the wheel. In fact, that is a Greg Butcher Trucking sponsored entry. Well, if you follow modified racing in this part of the country, you know that Randy Butner is a fan favorite at Bowman Gray Stadium, and he could still get the job done. In fact, he's got a couple of wins recently. But one of the interesting notes here about Butner, the history of this racetrack, Motor Mile Speedway. Well, it's been known by a few other names in its past. In fact, it was a small dirt track pretty much carved out of a plot of land way back in the 50s. When it finally turned into the asphalt oval that we know of it today, it reopened as Pulaski County Speedway back in 1988, where the track record was set by Jimmy Spencer that year. Well, then it was rebranded from 1992 all the way up to 2004, and it was then known as the New River Valley Speedway. Then, of course, in 2004, it was given the Motor Mile Speedway name that it still holds today. One of the interesting factoids about Randy Butner in that 6 car as the field hits the Citrus Safe Choose Cone is he has raced at this racetrack under all 3 different name iterations of this historic venue. Even one more really cool stat about Randy Butner, he hasn't run the oval in what he calls maybe 2 or 3 decades. Can't remember exactly the last time that he raced on the oval track at Motor Mile. But he was at the drag strip just off the back straightaway earlier on in the spring, having some fun with one of his drag cars. He is someone who's an absolute pleasure to talk to, a really unique fixture to have in the garage area. When I posed the question as to how did this come about, he said Greg had about 5 or 6 other commitments. So he gave me a call and said, you want to go have some fun? And Randy qualified that bad boy up in the top 10 as well earlier on this afternoon. What a story. Lights are out atop the AutosByNelson.com pace truck. And boy, do we have a shake-up in the running order. Brandon Ward and that team looking for their first victory of the season. Defending race winner here at Motor Mile is that car number 2 alongside of Jonathan Brown, looking for his 2nd win of the year, if at all possible, with several members of the Pace-O-Matic team and family here in attendance, and he is representing them in terms of the race car in the Smart Modified Tour powered by Pace-O-Matic and that SS Racing number 22. Bobby Labonte looking to get his team and car on Andretti in a victory lane for the first time this season, with Brian Lofton looking for win number 3 in the Shady Grady number 15. Here they come to the restart zone. We're back underway. A lot of different agendas there as things got really tight off of turn 2. Burt Myers had to change lanes quickly there on the bottom portion of the top 10, while Brandon Ward leads him back to the line. So it's Brandon Ward, Jonathan Brown, Bobby Labonte, your top 3. Brian Lofton runs 4th, Finocchiario 5th, and Daniel Yates, your top 6, in what is only his 3rd start of the season. A couple days fresh off of yet another birthday for Yates in that number 18 car. looking for his third top 10 of the season in 3 starts. A great run for the driver, who's currently holding down the 6th position for the moment. Ward now trying to control the pace of the field as there is just 33 laps to go in the season. One of the storylines coming into tonight in terms of the Smart 3, and again, the number of entries had a lot to do with how this was going to unfold and play out. You look at Brandon Ward, who is out in front of the field, and he is someone who has been a fixture in modified racing in this part of the country for quite some time. However, he has yet to taste a modified championship just yet. That's despite the fact that he's been a standout in Stock Car and Pro Cup competition. That's despite the fact that he came up just shy of being able to accomplish such a task at Bowman Gray Stadium this season, finishing 2nd in the championship points. He also was 2nd in the 2017 Southern Modified Racing Series points fight back in 2017. Even though Brandon Ward may not have the opportunity to win the war here tonight, he wants to assure that his team claims the final battle of the season here at Motor Mile, but he is starting to feel the pressure from Jonathan Brown, who rides in 2nd spot. For Jonathan Brown, who runs in 2nd position here, it's been pretty straightforward. Just an opportunity to not have bad luck plague this team, who works so hard to put race-winning cars on the racetrack. And even though the stat sheet may show that he came into the night outside of the top 5 in points, they had one agenda, and that was to compete for a win, and so far he has done that all night long. The question is there enough time for him to get that one more spot? As the field flashes back onto the main straightaway, fight for 5th as they come down the main stretch. That is Burt Myers inside of Chris Finacciario, squeezing between he and the lap car in turn 1. And Burt Myers, with that interesting call there, not sure if he was made aware that the pits were open the first time by. We'll have to check with him post-race as he came down the lap after the rest of the front runners. But he is certainly trying to rocket his way back up to the front as he has left less than 25 to go. Fight for 2nd starting to intensify as Bobby Labonte is closed up on Jonathan Brown. We painted the picture for Brandon Ward coming into tonight's season finale. Again, Caleb Petty off the racetrack. The youngster for Tommy Baldwin Racing, a former Pro Division Legends national champion in his first full-time season in tour-type modifieds in any capacity. He may very well sew up the title, but he was in good company in terms of the Smart 3. We talked about Brandon Ward. How about Bobby Labonte? The racing resume pretty much speaks for itself. 1991 Busch Series champion, 2000 NASCAR Cup Series champion, NASCAR Hall of Famer, and yet he chooses this type of car to be his hobby. He doesn't have to come out and race anymore if he didn't want to, but it absolutely fulfills all the ambitions that he has to get behind the wheel of a race car, and as he's proving right now, he is darn good at it. And Brian Lofton has entered the picture as well. How about a 4-car fight for the lead to close out the season with 20 laps to go? Brandon Ward, Jonathan Brown, Bobby Labonte, and the fastest car on the racetrack right now is that of Brian Lofton, who is trying to set up a pass for 3rd. Labonte now runs the high side as they come out of turn number 4. Lofton cuts down low. The fight for the final podium spot is on in turn 1, and Lofton, through 1 and 2, is up to 3rd. This is the same type of charge we saw out of Brian Lofton 1 week ago at Tri-County. Is there enough time to go back-to-back to close out the season? Want to welcome back in the booth Scott Stevens. And Scott, it has been an electric race so far here at Motor Mile, and we've got ourselves quite the fight shaping up at the front. Brandon Ward, Jonathan Brown, Brian Lofton, your top 3. Hold on tight. I think this is going to be a Motor Mile thriller.
No doubt about it. I got to spend some time outside, full volume, enjoying these cars, and you can feel the ground rumble. Even with just, 17 cars here, you can feel it in the ground, and they are amazingly fast.
We've seen a lot of comers and goers as this race has continued to unwind down to the final moments. Less than 15 laps to go. Brandon Ward trying to hold on for the top spot. Jonathan Brown still running in second. And Brian Lofton, many people said he had one of the best long-run cars. He's trying to prove it. And Labonte not going away in fourth.
And blistering pace here, 15.308 the last lap by. These are qualifying speeds that they're pulling in full racing action, and only 0.2 of a second from first to second.
Scott, you bring up a great point. This is pretty much the first time that we've seen this track really start to cool off. We had sun beating on this 0.4 of a mile oval all day long. These are conditions these drivers haven't practiced in so far today. Uncharted territory. And speaking of, leaders about to come up on the back of the field here, overtaking Gary Young Jr. to put him a lap down in turn one. Michael Rich just up the road as the top three tighten it up with 10 to go next time by.
I had wondered what would happen with this track once the temperatures dropped a little bit with these big, wide, soft tires. Would they be able to grip more? And it appears that they are. They are handling these turns with no problem. We see no fishtailing. Everybody is holding on to the grip of this track with some blistering speeds. Amazing fast.
So far, Brandon Ward has been able to hold off the challenge. In fact, he's opened up a little bit of an advantage now over Jonathan Brown in the tune of about 2 car lengths as they come out of turn number 2. For some of these drivers, this is their last opportunity to lay claim to a checkered flag in a Tour Type Modified in 2022. For others, some of them are going to race on Thursday, like that of Bobby Labonte, who's going to strap into a Tour Type Modified on the NASCAR wheel inside at Martinsville. Others will be prepping for the North-South Shootout. But in terms of the Smart Modified Tour, this is the way that you want to put an exclamation point on your season. Only one driver is going to have that chance, and the laps are clicking off quickly.
Very interested to hear how this affects the points championship. I know that there was not really a scenario where the winner was going to change based on the number of cars, but you couldn't tell me that based on the way they're fighting.
2 of the Smart 3 battling out across the top 4, while the other, the championship point leader, Caleb Hetty, retired less than 10 laps into the race. Leaders in some lap traffic as they come to the line here. 5 laps to go on Brandon Ward. Jonathan Brown's going to have to reach down into his bag of tricks to try to find something to get his second win of the season. Was talking to car owner Randy Renfro pre-race, and boy, did he seem confident in the race pace. They had dialed into this 2-car tonight. They usually field 2 cars on a Smart campaign, but they're keeping the second one aside for Joey Coulter to try to go after a grandfather clock on Thursday. They might have some more hardware to bring with them to Martinsville as there are just a few laps to go.
Jonathan Brown looks high. He looks low. He looks for anything that's going to get him around this track just a tick faster to be able to catch the leader, but there's nothing doing. They're equal, it seems, as they drive across the stripe.
2 laps to go on car 2. One of the things Motor Mile offers up is options. Unfortunately for Jonathan Brown, he appears to be running out of not just options, but time.
No doubt about it. I mean, if you can find the short part of this track, you're going to be able to gain some ticks, but I don't think Brown is going to be able to as we're in the last lap.
Half a lap to go in the final race of the season. Who would have thought it would have taken this long for Brandon Ward to get back to victory lane? One final charge for Jonathan Brown, and it's not going to be enough. Brandon Ward ends the season with a win at Motor Mile.
Jonathan Brown right there with him. Brian Lofton. Bobby Labonte ends up in 4th. Burt Myers 5th, and Jason Myers finishing 6th. Wow, great racing. I know you got to go down and do some interviews, so I'll see you out. All right, race fans, there you go. There's the racing at Motor Mile Speedway for the Smart Modified. Wow, that was an amazing race. So much speed, so fast, and so much fun. Great racing here for Brandon Ward, your winner, number 2. We talked to him at the beginning of the race. Before the race, we interviewed him during our pit party, and he promised a great show, and he truly delivered. And there he goes with his victory lap. In that fast modified, he's going to go around and give everybody a wave on his victory lap. That is fantastic. What a race here at Motor Mile Speedway. There's nothing good about a hurricane, but the one thing about Hurricane Ian and all the rain it dumped on Virginia, getting that race rescheduled for tonight turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because we had the Smart Modified here competing on our championship night, the championship night of our Sportsman, as well as our Super Street. And here they were competing for the final race of their tour for the Smart Modified Tour tonight. And kudos to Eric Brennan, who was announcing. He's the tour announcer. He travels with the Smart Modified. Did a great job in here announcing this race, telling us all the backstories and the history. And we're going to get some interviews here in just a few minutes. They got to get their TV crew. Flow Racing is represented here. So they're going to get set up, and we're going to hear that interview that everybody else watching on Flow Racing will get to hear as well. All right, folks, they're going to take over for the interviews here in just a minute, but I want to remind you. Okay, go ahead whenever you're ready there, Eric.
What a great way to end the season for this driver and this team. After they were on a roll at the end of 2021, they end 2022 on the highest of high notes. Car owner Randy Renfro is in here, ready to celebrate for the first time this season. And as you can tell, the team is hyped for the first time this season. Our winner at Motor Mile, Brandon Ward. Immediate congratulations from car owner Randy Renfro, who's been with this driver and team since its inception. Joey Coulter getting set for a big race on Thursday night. I want to welcome you over here, Brandon. One of the Smart Three in 2022, an opportunity at a championship, but nevertheless, what a way to end 2022. You guys were so hot at the end of last season. Who would have thought it took this long to get to victory lane? But you got the job done when it matters most. What is it about this place that just clicks with you in this organization?
Man, I love this racetrack. I've always loved coming here, from late models, Hooters Pro Cup cars, modifieds, it doesn't matter. You know, I always love this racetrack, love the fans. Congratulations to Caleb Hetty. You know, that kid, he's done a great job all year long. And him and Tommy Ball and that team won a championship. We were just, you know, we lost it a few races ago when we ran out of fuel at Caraway, and then we had trouble at Carteret County. So just wanted to come here and win the race, and luckily enough, we were able to back that up again and do that. So thanks to this race team. Heck of a job on pit road these guys do. They work hard at it. Randy Renfro, this entire Coulter Motorsports team, Joe, Susan, Joey, everybody that enables me to do what I do to drive for them. It's an honor to carry that logo on this car and be a part of this team. Randy Renfro Race Cars, Renfro Heating and Air, KevinSaysYes.com, and then all the KP Enterprise companies for what they do for me. Kevin Powell, Jeff Day, Precision Built Spindle, Robert Yates Racing Engines, David Lewis, everybody that does so much for this deal. You know, I just can't thank them enough. A guy that has spotted for me for years, Richard Smith, we call him Julio. He's been under the weather the last little bit. I know he's watching on Flow tonight, so just want to say hey to him. And, you know, thanks to Flow, thanks to Pace-O-Matic, thanks to everybody at Smart for all that they do for this series, for short track racing, and just, you know, really an honor to be a part of this deal.
As soon as you got out of the car, I saw you hug Randy Renfro. You and Joey Coulter, who is not in the field tonight, but we've seen 2 cars entered by this organization. What does it say in terms of the trust that you two have in each other to know that you can come on out and put on performances like this? Seems like every year you're the one to beat at the end of these seasons, but you guys have such a good working relationship. What does that mean to you to have the confidence required to go out and get the job done like you did tonight?
Well, I've always had a lot of confidence in Randy Renfro. I raced against him for years in the Super Late models, and to be a part of this deal and to drive his cars that he's tuned, it's been an honor. He's awesome to work with, man. He's just all-around good guy, prepares good race cars. To have Joey Coulter and Harold Holly and them running some races with us and us having both cars, I feel like we've been able to learn a little bit having both cars at the racetrack. So we're able to come here and get a win tonight here at the last Smart Tour race. Going to try to go to Martinsville with Joey and Harold on Thursday and try to get a win in that race for them.
You mentioned the pit stop. It looked as though there was a noticeable difference between you and the cars that came in ahead of you. Is there any way you could divide up that trophy maybe and give it out to some of those pit crew guys? They earn their money tonight, huh?
I tell you what, they do a great job. They work real hard at it. They work as hard on that as I do in the race car. It's honestly, it's a team effort with this whole group, and they all work hard and they all work together. Thanks to Kerry Lawrence. Donnie's normally our jack man. He broke some ribs racing go-karts a few weeks ago, so he's been on injury reserve this week. So Kerry Lawrence came in and filled in with these guys. Obviously, he picked up, did a great job, so just want to thank them all.
Second win for this team. First for you, however, this season. I want to invite in now Haley Williams from Bankers Life to present Brandon Ward with his first Smarty Trophy of 2022. What a way to cap off the season. Once again, your winner tonight, Brandon Ward. After a problem, about 10 laps into the race, this youngster had to stand on the sidelines and endure what must have been the longest 89 laps of his young life, especially from the perspective that he was holding as the rest of the race continued to unfold. The Army, that is, the members of this famed 7NY team, have assembled as they are set to celebrate yet another accomplishment in 2022 for this organization. But what an accomplishment for this young driver. Hard to believe it is this youngster's first full-time season in tour-type modified competition.
Chris, you want the champagne and Is he old enough for champagne?
Hard to believe that this youngster had to wait until the numbers were crunched to make it official. The crew has been waiting for this moment all afternoon, and this driver's are waiting for this moment for all of his young racing life. And this is only the beginning for young Caleb Petty. Congratulations all the way around as everything is laid out for our champion to celebrate. Again, Brandon Ward gets the win, but by just 14 points, Caleb Petty will be celebrating a Smart Modified title. Bit of a premature celebration on that one. How about your Smart Modified champion, Caleb Petty? What a moment. What a moment for this youngster out of Shelbyville, Kentucky. Caleb, you won the national championship in the Pro Division in Legend Cars, and in just your first full-time season, Tommy Baldwin tags you to match the success that they've displayed across modified racing on every level, and you delivered. What does this mean to you?
Man, this is crazy. You know, like everybody said, this is our first full year trying this thing, so to end up with it is very special. Sucks the race went that way. Oh God, here it goes.
Spotter Brad Newman coming in.
Yeah, get him. You know, the race went kind of crappy for us. Broke on lap 10, but you know, to be able to not even finish the last race and win the championship is just outstanding. I couldn't believe it.
I know that we were crunching the numbers prior. We thought maybe this thing would be in the bag based on how many cars got to start the race. But were you still biting your fingernails there, watching the rest of this race unfold without you being out there to control your own destiny?
Man, there's still, get him. I'm sorry. Yeah, we going into today, we knew we had it clinched up. We knew we had it, but man, the second we broke, I was nervous as all could be, just worrying about it. I texted my spotter Brad up there, you know, like, are we sure we still got this? So you know, the nerves were high, but you know, it's over now. So.
We don't see that many young drivers come straight into tour-type modified competition, let alone succeed. What was it about these cars and this relationship with Tommy that gave you the opportunity to prove the talent that you have even at such a young age?
Man, if I told you an answer, I'd be lying. You know, this car is bad fast everywhere we go. Like I said, if you know, we lose a race, it comes down to whoever's in the driver's seat. You know, I can't thank the team enough for how much they've just brought me in, gave me all the tips, helped me out as much as we can, and you know, we're champions at the end of the day, so you know, we got it.
You got a pretty impressive racing resume already. Do we know what's next for Caleb Petty, or are you still aligning your plans for 2023?
Man, we're still aligning plans. You know, I should be in the seat as much as I can. Before I let you guys go, huge thanks to Tommy Baldwin Racing for all their help. Huge thanks to my grandpa. Hi to all the guys back home. I know it sucks that we didn't even finish the race, but you know, we're here drenched in champagne, so you know, there we go.
Enjoy it, my friend. You guys earned it. Great job. You're taking the hardware back to Shelbyville, Kentucky. Once again, our 2022 Smart Modified champion, Caleb Petty.